Right now on the front page of the Washington Post, mainstream news is a big old banner for Donald Trump's campaign, which reads, "The radical leftist takeover of Joe Biden is complete." The ad, of course, is disparaging Kamala Harris as the VP pick, and then they insinuate by choosing her, Joe Biden himself is far left. Now, of course, journalists across the woke spectrum are furious. How dare the Washington Post sully their good name by selling ad space to Donald Trump? And the reputation of the Washington Post is now at stake, they say. You know, it's not just these banner ads. They've got Trump-Pence logo, and they actually sold a full website takeover. That means when you first go to the site, you see a massive video player for Donald Trump's campaign. Now, to me, I think it's just, look, it's an election cycle. So, of course, they're going to be buying ad space across the board. But these woke journalists are angry because Donald Trump routinely drags the press as fake news. They claim that his ad is all lies. And I'm just like, what do you think political ads are? But in their woke outrage, they expose what most of us already know. They're biased against the president. They don't like him. They want him to lose. And the media industry is absolutely biased. I think this was a very clever play. And it comes shortly after we heard Donald Trump bought the YouTube banner ad, which is the most expensive ad space on the internet, so they say. But some are arguing this was actually a really bad move by Donald Trump. You know why? Well, look just below the ads for Trump, and you see a bunch of negative news about the president. They say people are going to come to the Washington Post. They're going to see negative stories about Trump, and now Trump is effectively funding this good journalism. That's wrong, actually. You see, people who go to the Washington Post aren't following the news. That's why they go to the Washington Post and not other sources. They don't go to alternative sources or independent news channels. They just read whatever the narrative is. Trump, with these ads, is cracking through that narrative, and it will greatly benefit him. It's very different when Joe Biden or, say, Mike Bloomberg advertises on my channel, because people who go on YouTube and look for news are seeking out other voices to challenge the mainstream narrative. And thus, it is no surprise that Donald Trump's approval rating is going up. At least in one poll, Rasmussen, they see a massive increase in approval. Trump now at 51% with a 4-point positive swing. And this increase in the polls, it's actually twofold. And that's why Donald Trump is buying these ads. You see, Trump's polls are improving around the time they announced Kamala Harris was the VP. And that may be the main reason. So, of course, the Trump campaign, being very smart, doubles down and goes for the attack. They've spotted the weakness of the Democrats. Kamala Harris was a big mistake, and now they are playing to it. And I'm willing to bet this is going to work very, very well. Now, wait until you see the extreme meltdown from one journalism professor and the outrage from these journalists. And it just goes to show the industry, in my opinion, is tainted. There is no ethics. There's no objectivity. It's broken. Let's get started. And before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is actually just subscribe to my channel. About half the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So just go below the video player, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, the notification bell. And if you really want to help, share this video. But let's read this. Let's get right into it. And I want to show you this Twitter thread from a professor named Jeff Jarvis. And I have to say, I mean, no disrespect, but I need to highlight this in a very critical manner. You see, I know Jeff Jarvis. I've known him for quite some time. And I believe he has totally lost his sense of reality. And this thread, I'm sorry, is completely unhinged. Take a look at this. He tweets, "No, Washington Post. No, no, no. How dare you? Were these pieces of silver worth the price of your soul? The Post not only sold its front page, but also sold a takeover. Who the F decided this? I am so ashamed of you." And they let Trump S on the pages of the Washington Post and its journalism throughout. Shameful. The bileless insult to democracy darkens the Post's homepage 4 times. Democracy dies in darkness indeed. Some people aren't seeing the ad, are you? I don't know how the targeting works. I am, for the moment, a Post subscriber. The inside ad is apparently frequency delimited. It appeared on the Kamala Harris story once and then not again, saving Trump pennies. I just retweeted people in half a dozen languages across the world expressing their shock at what the Washington Post did this morning. This harms the reputation of an institution we deeply depend on. And one more awful thing about this ad buy, the Trump-Pence logo sitting next to the Washington Post logo as if it were editorial navigation to a news site. Awful, just awful. The publishers of the Washington Post, Fred Ryan, must be held to account for this business decision. It would appear Washington Post journalists may not have seen the Trump takeover or of their newspaper this morning, as they have in-house accounts. I've let a few know. I await the reaction of the newsroom to what their publisher has done to the reputation of their institution. I want to know how this ad buy was approved and whether the newsroom was shown it and signed off. And don't at me with any crap about the Post taking ads from anyone. They are sophisticated enough to know they were used in this case to own the libs. They were Donald Trump's toy and he kicked it to the wall. And there it is. I mean, I got a little more to read to you from Jeff Jarvis, but he's straight up saying he doesn't like it that Trump was owning the libs. Why? What do you mean? He bought ad space. Whether it was right or wrong, it's an ad. If a company runs an ad, yeah, ads can be deceptive. They're trying to persuade you. That's how ads work. The Washington Post relies on advertising and subscription revenue to stay afloat. But Jeff Jarvis doesn't like it that Trump owned the libs. He even says they were used in this case to own the libs. Is he implying that Trump actually did own the libs? Is what Trump said correct? Or is he simply saying that was the goal of Donald Trump? He actually calls for the Post to return the money. Return the money, Washington Post. It is tainted. And now so is the newspaper. No, keep the money. What? He says, I find it charming that some of you want to blame Google for the Trump takeover of the Washington Post. No, it's not programmatic. It is an explicit buy. The Times wrote about it. That's right. The New York Times wrote about it. It was a major 7-figure ad buy. So what? It was done during the DNC. This is what happens during presidential campaigns. I mean, listen. Journalists could at least pretend to be objective. Many are saying, well, I, for one, disagree because now they should offer up equal space, blah, blah, blah. Not here. So I can appreciate that Jeff Jarvis is at least being honest and pulling the mask off and saying straight up, we just don't like Trump owning the libs. He says, I am also amused at the news people who, just like Facebook, are trying to demand policies that can be applied against all ads, including this morning's Trump ad takeover. Maybe they'll have more sympathy for Zuckerberg the next time one of its billion ads is grating. Only this isn't one of a billion ads. This is an ad that took over the front page of one of the two most important newspapers in the nation. And here's the ad. Or I'm sorry, this is the ad. I'll just show you. When you click it, this is what you get. It says, Sleepy Joe, wrong for America. Joe Biden failure. Biden kneels to the left. China Joe voted for most favored nation status for China. They say with Kamala Harris on the ticket, the radical left-wing takeover of Joe Biden is complete. Let me tell you why Jeff is really mad and why these other journalists are really mad and why Fast Company has actually written an article saying Trump's Washington Post ad buy stands in stark contrast to paper's motto, sparks furious debate. It's because the Kamala Harris attack vector is working. It is improving Donald Trump's standing. People do not like Kamala. It was a serious mistake. Progressives don't like her. The DNC is a disaster. And Donald Trump and his campaign are smart. They're 5 steps ahead of the Democrats. The Democrats only now just saying the Pledge of Allegiance, supporting this country. Only just now are they slowly starting to call out Antifa, because they realized this was helping Donald Trump. Some speculate the reason they chose Kamala Harris was because she's tough on crime, but she's also considered to be one of the most progressive, if not the most liberal candidate in Congress. People don't like her. And following her, the announcement that she was the VP, Trump's approval ratings skyrocketed. Joe Biden's national polling started to decline, and Trump started to narrow that. According to a CNN poll, in 15 states, battleground states, Trump is within 1 point of Joe Biden, well within the margin of error, meaning they made a serious mistake with Kamala Harris. And what we're really seeing is Trump exploiting this. And when you see Jeff Jarvis and other journalists outraged, it's because it's working. They are mad. They are losing now. Take a look at this story from Fast Company. The digital home of the Washington Post, that venerated beacon of American journalism, is currently an exercise in cognitive dissonance. Visit the paper's website currently to witness a configuration of words and images that all cancel each other out. At the top of the paper's famously goth-tinged slogan for the Trump era, democracy dies in darkness, flanked by tiny ads for Trump's re-election, just beneath the masthead, a larger version of the ad, stretching across the entire page, reads, "The radical leftist takeover of Joe Biden is complete," in all caps, like one of the president's inflammatory tweets. And finally, beneath this invective, the headline, "Harris accepts historic VP nomination. We will speak truths." And when you click that headline and read the actual article, you get more Trump ads. Listen, I think the Washington Post was being fair in selling this ad space. Trump asked to buy it. They said, okay, he's a presidential candidate. They're just mad that the Washington Post actually played fair for once. They don't like it. They want these news organizations like them to be in the bag for the Democrats. Well, too bad. They say the flat image in the tweet above doesn't convey the ad buy's full effect. Scrolling through WAPO's website, the ad at the top expands to fill the whole screen, demanding readers either X out or click through. It's a total troll move on behalf of the president, debasing the newspaper that he frequently disparages as the Amazon Washington Post. What could be a greater slight at the publication's expense than forcing its owners to acknowledge they're not in a position to turn down Trump's money? Needless to say, many in the media world were left aghast by the decision. Oh, calm down. Seriously. They run ads all over YouTube. Do I complain? I laugh when Bloomberg buys ads on my videos. I laugh about it. Whatever, man. I don't care. I'm going to do my thing. You do your thing. They're just mad that it's working for Trump. Matthew Gertz tweeted, "The Washington Post website is covered in Trump ads this morning, including a pre-roll video. It is shameful for the paper to take money from a president whose denunciations endangered journalists and may have contributed to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi." Oh, please. Of course, they include Jeff Jarvis's epic meltdown. We have this tweet from someone, from Dan Sinker. "The Washington Post running a full Trump campaign homepage takeover, complete with full screen video ad. Seems like a remarkably self-destructive decision. Whatever amount of money you were paid was nowhere near worth the compromise to your integrity." And I'm going to have to say, I'm not convinced it was a 7-figure buy, not directly to the Washington Post, but in general. I'm pretty sure they got paid a hefty sum of money they're very happy with. Now, to be fair, I would personally never take a direct ad sponsorship from any presidential candidate. Not Trump, not Biden, not Bloomberg, not Hillary, nobody. I've said, here's who I like in certain instances. That's just my honest take. And I've made donations, but I wouldn't take money from anybody. The Washington Post made a choice to do this, and maybe you can be critical of them for this, but I'm not. Ultimately, look, I know what I won't do. I don't care if the Washington Post does or doesn't do it. They show this woman, Amanda Crumley, and now they're just showing regular old Democrats complaining. I don't care if Democrats are complaining. Ian Bremmer, however, Fast Company adds, and then I'll read the Ian Bremmer tweet. "As confused and as upset as many were to see the paper's unlikely ads, some voices in the media ecosystem found ways to put them in perspective." Ian Bremmer saying, "Lots of people criticizing the Post for running this Trump ad. I could not disagree more strongly. The Post would lose integrity if they refused to run it. I agree with that. It is a presidential campaign. Choosing sides would be not to run the ad. So if Biden wants to buy ad space, they sell to him as well." Now, here's where it gets interesting. They have this tweet from Sonny Bunch. He said, "Here's a left-wing thing I don't really understand. Complaining about Donald Trump paying for ads in the Washington Post, a purchase that will fund journalism that will undoubtedly be damaging to Donald Trump. That's just, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I believe that's incorrect. You see, like I said earlier, when you come to my video, you've seen something. It says something. You say, I want to learn more about this. If you click a video where I'm like, Democrats are dumb, you have chosen to engage with that content. If you then see a video before, during, or after where they're saying, no, here's what we're doing, I think you've chosen to explore content. You're outside the narrative. Now, it's not imperfect. I think that if Joe Biden and Bloomberg buy ad space on Google and it runs on my videos, it does help them quite a bit because it puts things in perspective. It allows them to say their piece. I can respect that. The same as I can respect the Washington Post for running Trump ads. However, the people who go to the Washington Post aren't looking for anything. They're just scrolling through and reading whatever. And it's kind of true for YouTube, sure. But the Washington Post is where normies go to read their news. They're now seeing narrative-shattering advertisements. I think ultimately it'll be a great benefit. We do have some, so Jeff Jarvis mentioned people in other languages were tweeting this out, but these people, I don't care about their opinions. I mean, these are just regular people who speak different languages who are outraged because they hate Donald Trump. Now, Jeff B., I pull up these tweets because it is a Twitter spat when people have meltdowns. He said, if you enjoy embarrassing Eric Garland-style meltdowns, this is a heck of a thread. And he links to Jeff Jarvis. He says, no matter how odious Trump is, he's president of the United States and the nominee of one of two major parties. I'd like to see a thesis as to why Washington Post should accept advertising by the Democratic Party and Biden Harris, but taking it from the GOP is like turning into Judas, which is what he said about the pieces of silver. He goes on to say, I mean, that's obviously a rhetorical ask. We all get why running ads for one side is okay, but running them for the other side is like selling out Christ, because one side is good and the other side is evil in the eyes of the person making this statement. This is Jay Rosen style toxicity. Well, you know what? That's literally what journalism is. These professors are far left. They love to sing my praises. When I was on the ground covering Occupy Wall Street, it was fantastic. Now that I'm, in the newsroom, essentially, and providing commentary and analysis, punditry, essentially, now they're upset with me. Many of these people say, I don't know what you're doing now, but these have always been woke, progressive, outraged journalists who wanted to support a particular ideology. In fact, when it comes to Jeff Jarvis, I was at VidCon, which is the largest, social media video conference, digital media conference in the world, mostly YouTubers. And Jeff Jarvis was leading a panel with several other progressives where they actually said there are no honest conservatives in news, which is just as I remember it. OK, so it's been several years, so keep that in mind. But I was angry and I yelled at Jeff Jarvis afterwards. And I said, if you want an honest person to actually sit down and have a conversation about media, all you did was get a bunch of progressives, not journalists, pundits up on a podium to preach about conservatives were bad. That's not news. And I said, you could have asked Ben Shapiro. Mind you, this was several years ago, but he was uninterested. I was angry. It was a violation of ethics, and it was an insult to any intelligent person to go up and pretend that you're a journalist when you're not. And now we can see it. I mean, the mask has been off these people for some time. We know the media is fake news. Take a look at this. The New York Times. Trump campaign makes huge digital ad buy during Democratic convention. That's normal. And they mentioned that he bought he bought from all of these different outlets, including Fox News and YouTube and the Washington Post. It's not a big deal. It was on YouTube. It was on many different news websites. And I don't know why they're pretending like they're shocked. Here's what they say. Republicans contend the Trump campaign will be able to reach a large audience with their approach. Quote, you're going to have a very effective message penetration because the people who are served an unskippable ad want to see that content after the ad. So they are willing to spend 15 seconds watching your message. It's not like television where an ad comes on and you can go to the bathroom or leave the room until the show comes back. That unskippable inventory has the ability to not only add a lot of scale, but a lot of quality to your digital buy. Like I said, that's the real reason they're angry. It works. But check this out. This is the ad on YouTube. It's massive. The most expensive ad buy you can get on the internet. Trump knows what he's doing. Now I want to bring you here to a news story. Not news story. It's from August 5th. The Biden campaign announces largest ad buy ever by a presidential candidate. No outrage? No outrage for the outlets he chose? I mean, this is all over TV, right? They say, pretty soon it'll be hard to escape Joe Biden on your television, on your radio, on your phone. The Biden campaign on Wednesday is announcing that what it says is the largest TV ad buy ever by a presidential candidate, with $220 million set aside for commercials to air through the fall and another $60 million budgeted to reach audiences digitally on social media or gaming platforms. Gaming platforms, mind you. Biden's team is planning to reach voters in at least 15 states with messages that feature the former vice president speaking directly to the camera about the response to COVID, the pandemic, and the economic fall. They mention all these different battleground states and blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Joe Biden did not buy the banner space on YouTube. The Democrats didn't buy this. That was shocking to me. They're doing a digital DNC and they didn't buy the premium space during their own convention. They gave it to Trump. Man, I am really, really surprised by that. That says to me that they're not serious, or when combined with this information, they are epically mismanaging their ad buys. Right now, Donald Trump's approval rating is through the roof. Rasmussen says, early notice. Triple checked. Real Donald Trump daily job approval percentage is sharply up today on exceptionally strong overnight results. We can take a look at Real Clear Politics and we can see now many people don't like Rasmussen. And I do think you need more than just one poll to determine the president's approval. But Rasmussen has Trump at 51% approval to 47% disapproval. And the reality is, it's not just Rasmussen. The Inquisitor reports August 19th, Joe Biden's lead over Donald Trump drops in new poll after selecting Kamala Harris as running mate. Now, they are referencing Rasmussen, but I want to point out that CNN said Donald Trump's approval rating is going way up in 15 different battleground states, putting him within 1 percentage point. That is why Joe Biden is buying in many of these states. In fact, it may be the exact same states, the key battleground states. It's not working. Joe Biden's ads, in my opinion, are relatively ineffective, and Trump's are effective. So you can see the journalists for what they really are, Democratic campaigners. I want to elaborate just in the last few minutes of this segment on media polarization in this country and why I think that Joe Biden's ads are going to be ineffective and why Donald Trump's are going to be effective. Pew Research published this January 24th. U.S. media polarization, the 2020 election, a nation divided. Deep partisan divisions exist in the news sources Americans trust and distrust and rely on. They have a little bit of data right here. Democrats express more trust of most news sources asked about. Republicans express more distrust. Interestingly, they say from 30 sources, Democrats trust more than distrust. Republicans distrust more than trust. These sources that the Democrats trust are mainstream media. So what do you think happens when Donald Trump runs? Actually, let me stop. I'll start with Biden first. What do you think happens when you go to the Washington Post and they have nothing but anti-Trump stories? Orange man bad, Bannon arrested, big breaking news. People get a negative view of Donald Trump. So when they run Joe Biden ads, I don't think it's going to have much of an effect because people are already seeing information about Trump being bad, making Joe Biden's massive ad buy kind of pointless. The media is doing the job for you, Biden. You could sit back and they will disparage Trump all day and night. You need say very little. But what would happen if Donald Trump were to buy that ad space and counter the narrative, neutralizing it? And that's the point. As some have tried to argue, it's cognitive dissonance, like they said at Fast Company. Trump puts out the ad, but so what? Everything on the page is just countering it. So you mean that Trump's ad buy is countering the constant stream of negative press? Sounds like that's really good for Trump. Putting Joe Biden ads would just saturate the already negative message. So once again, allow me to say, as we watch Donald Trump's approval rating start to go up, and albeit only a little bit, he's currently at 43.7% approval in aggregate, which is basically a presidential average. He definitely needs to improve. While we're seeing all this happen, the journalists are freaking out, shocked and outraged. Not every single journalist, mind you. Okay, I'm not trying to say literally every journalist is doing this, but many of them. This is one of those moments where you can really find out where the bias is. And as we've learned in recent news, with this study coming out of University of Illinois at, I believe it's Urbana-Champaign, the Beltway bubble that tricked everyone into believing Hillary Clinton was going to win is smaller now, and the isolation of these journalists is worse than it was in 2016. When you take that into consideration, and you see the polls in 15 battleground states have Donald Trump within 1 point, within the margin of error, I think we might see a decisive Donald Trump victory. And he'd need it. With the mail-in voting fiasco, with the constant accusations that he's cheating, and now there's this post office conspiracy theory, Trump's going to need a very clean victory. But I'll tell you what I think. Right now, I think Trump's going to win. I think they know he's going to win. I think that's why they're kind of just whatever, just doing whatever, picking Kamala. They know he's going to win. They want to sort of virtue signal for now, make it look like they care, when in reality they expect to lose, so they can come back in the next 4 years or so. But during the next cycle, Donald Trump's reelection, they will claim he cheated. They will look for blame anywhere they can put it other than themselves, just like 2016 all over again. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.